Hello folks, thanks for coming back to our part 2 and 3. We're going to combine 2 portions into this one video of our educational discussion. If you haven't watched part 1, please watch part 1 first and then jump back to this video. What we're going to talk about now is the use of uniforms as a learning tool. What students wear in America. This is another drastic difference between top-level schools across the globe and what we do here in America, and that's the use of uniforms. And when we talk about uniforms, we mean that in the very literal sense, not the sort of uniforms we casually suggest in America, where basically they want you to wear some kind of certain color t-shirt and some kind of certain color pants and that's it. The concept of uniforms can be a fundamental aid in training students to appreciate their school, to focus around a common goal. It can aid in uniting the student body and in treating others equally. Real uniforms consist of every article of clothing not just being the same color, but absolutely matching. Real uniforms are worn not just by the students, but by every staff member and teacher in the school. They don't have to have the same uniform, okay? The staff can have one kind of uniform, the students can have another kind of uniform. Uniforms are made by the same manufacturer, and they are made for that specific school. Uniforms include all accessories like backpacks, water bottles, shoes, pants, skirts, dresses, socks, shirts, belts, hats, scarves, whatever athletic wear a student needs. In many cases, even items like pens, pencils, and assorted stationery. In short, everything. Uniforms should always have some meaningful or thoughtful emblem or insignia related to the school emblazoned somewhere on the outer clothing. Uniforms accomplish so many things. They absolutely help to balance the children's morale and self-esteem. They create a very real and visual sense of school unity and community. They significantly lower the cost of clothes for every family. Instead of new school clothes, students only need 2 sets of uniforms. And because schools will use the same basic uniform year after year after year, there is always a constant supply of lightly used uniforms available for those students and families with financial difficulties. Some American parents might initially think that a school uniform is some kind of additional expense. That's simply not how real life works. Nothing could be further from the truth. You don't need additional clothes, and reality is you will spend much less than half of what you might normally spend on clothing for your children. If you break it down mathematically, you should need approximately 2/7 of what you might normally spend. That's about 30%. So if you had spent $1,000 a year on your children's clothes, with a strict school uniform policy, you will spend only $300 a year. And in reality, probably much less than that. Now, the last point I want to make about uniforms is that they represent literally the lowest of the low-hanging fruit options that any school could immediately apply to begin making a positive difference in their operation. It doesn't take the passage of brand new legislation. It doesn't require the investment of millions of new dollars. No one has to agree throughout the community to levy some special tax so that a school can institute a strict uniform policy. It can be done with a single simple email message to the parents at home or some assembly hall announcement. The point is so basic and critical that it really bears repeating. Any American public school or district can immediately apply this proven technique to begin making a positive difference in their operation. The positive effects are as immediate as they are important, and we should all recognize that the fact that so few schools even bother to take advantage of this simple and significant upgrade is not just shameful. It's really a great example of why American public schools keep falling further and further behind. This blanket unwillingness to just take those simple and necessary steps that would automatically improve the system is nothing short of tragic. We're trading a better educational product for our children for some misguided belief that we think is to their own expediency or their comfort, which I shouldn't have to explain to anyone is a bad trade for everyone involved. Now, the last point we're going to talk about is how long children attend school, the school days and the hours. We're going to talk about the school hours of operation and then how many days are in a typical American school year. Now, almost all of the world's most effective schools start at 7 a.m. and they last until 3 p.m. Many last longer than that, but just one of the key reasons why schools should start early is because children should go to bed early. Nothing positive or appropriate happens late at night. So there is no reason for young children to spend that time up and active. That is the proper time for children to be asleep. Meanwhile, we should all be able to agree that waking up early makes a lot of sense for everyone. Unlike staying up late at night, there are lots of useful opportunities and advantages to getting up early. Early is a great time to eat your breakfast. Early is a great time to wash up. Early is a great time to get dressed. A great time to do something academic. Going to bed sometime between 8 and 10 p.m. and waking up between 5 and 6 a.m. would be almost every parent's preferred option. And it would give them the most advantages in their own schedule and their own life. So it's important to everyone that schools start at the most appropriate hour. Having a strict school attendance taken every day precisely at 7 a.m. promotes and instills discipline, promptness, and encourages the proper scheduling for that child's family. A full 8-hour school day gives students adequate time for homeroom, assembly, a proper recess, a proper lunchtime, as well as a full course of classes. Most Americans don't realize that for a typical Asian student in second grade, their full and well-rounded school curriculum will include courses in mathematics, keyboarding, science, natural history, world history, their own native language, plus a foreign language, music, art, physical education, world religion, social studies. There's things I've left off that list. Now, likely they're not going to have every single class period every day, but they will have all of these classes within their single school year. Again, this is a school course curriculum for second graders. Now, compare that concept to your own public school second grader who likely only rarely even leaves their own homeroom class. Additionally, almost every great school offers a wide-ranging multitude of extracurricular activities, typically beginning 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes after the regular school day ends. These activities can vary in length and frequency depending on the exact nature of the class, but extending the school day for another 1 to 2 hours presents a host of positive options and opportunities for both the children and their families. And it's obviously very highly encouraged. In other countries, more than 75% of students take part in some amount of extracurricular activities. So the idea of providing a full school day means different things to Americans than it does to populations that place a premium on the education of their children. In America, we like to start late. Maybe 8 a.m., maybe 9 a.m., and we like to finish early. Maybe 2:15, 2:30, 2:45. And we offer very few extracurricular activities other than sports, and most of those don't even begin until at least 6th grade. Now, we already have scientific studies and data-driven criminology reports that prove the detrimental effects of sending children home before their parents get home and how risky that is. The lack of discipline and stability during that specific portion of the day is one of the most dangerous situations for children, and especially for children in our underserved communities. This lack of supervision during this critical time in a young child's life is precisely the type of issue which we can and must address through these intelligent education reforms and restructures. The police aren't going to do it for us. So we have the opportunity to end a significant contributing factor for juvenile delinquency and at-risk youth behavior. This is a win-win situation. Conditions like this ought to be a no-brainer solution. Now, hopefully you can begin to understand that, without going into too far into the multiple and complex details of all the possible reforms and structural changes that would be necessary to make America's educational system one of the best in the world again. If we just focus on these three key issues, from the earlier video, sending children to school at a much earlier age, and what we've talked about here, the strict use of real uniforms and increasing the length of the school day and year, just doing these three things, none of which are either complicated or controversial, will be of vast benefit to the children, to the schools, to the teachers, to the families, and to our society at large. Now, before we close, let's examine some of the additional positive effects of implementing intelligent reforms like this, things that we didn't say precisely. Number one, parents who are currently forced to seek and finance daycare for their young children would be freed from that complicated and expensive burden. We cannot understate what a big deal this is. Some families pay a significant percentage of their income just to pay for daycare. Other families have to make this difficult choice where it's more financially sensible for one of the parents to quit work and stay home just to take care of the kids. Other families rely on outside family members or friends or groups or daycare facilities willing to become obligated to care for the children. That ends by sending our kids to school at the proper age. Children in America are already being segregated by their abilities and achievement levels because some parents are able and willing to train their young children and some are not. So while most American children start kindergarten somewhere around the same age, maybe 5 or 6, some can read and some cannot. Some are outgoing and some are introverted. Some love school and some hate school. And having children at drastically different levels of competence, confidence, and ability creates significant problems for them and for the teachers. These early learning teachers are inherently forced to juggle the methods in which they approach everything they do across this wide spectrum of levels of understanding. They can never give the accelerated children their fullest effort, and they can't give the children who are lagging behind their proper attention. As you can imagine, when children's learning levels and abilities are much more closely and uniformly aligned, the teachers will just be that much more effective and productive. This concept essentially illustrates how the education gap is formed and why it persists, and reforming this aspect of our society will greatly reduce and limit that potential gap, solving the education gap. Now, students who return home at 6 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. are going to be much more disciplined, much more willing to do what is necessary because there's not enough time to do the unnecessary. You eat, you do some homework, you do some reading, you take a shower, it's time for bed. This is the proper daily structure of a young student. Making time to do whatever you want, to play with friends, to idle away the hours in curious experimentation, playing video games, watching TV, that's exactly how children get distracted and diverted into unhelpful, dangerous, or negative behaviors and activities. Let's be realistic. American kids have plenty of weekends, vacation days, and holidays for idle play and relaxation. We didn't even discuss this incredible but absolutely true fact. Compared to other countries, the United States students attend much less school. By the time an American completes high school, they will have attended school for approximately 2,340 days. Compare that to the 3,185 days a typical Chinese student attends school. Chinese students have 845 more school days than Americans. That equals 4.7 years, almost 5 years of school. Now, if we're going to realistically compete with the best students in the world, we need a complete shift in our thinking. We need to stop treating young Americans as children and start treating them like students. What we'll find is that when we do that, then they will start acting like students. Now, if you've watched this far, please understand and believe no other politician, let alone someone who's just a candidate, even understands this. And if they do, they're definitely not talking about it. That is why it is so important for you to vote for Michael Moore. Because this is the type of life-changing societal reform issue that we will be discussing, advancing, and working on solving when I'm elected as your representative. Nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is going to touch it. And please feel free to contact me anytime regarding this issue or any other thing. I always include my direct phone number at the top of every one of my web pages on our website for that exact reason. Okay, don't forget, usrepmore.com. The contact information is right there. You can always get a hold of me. I want to begin now establishing a direct line of communication with you about a variety of issues and concerns that will extend past this campaign, past this election, and into the actual administration of our office. It's critical for us that you continue to play an important and direct role in helping establish exactly who we are and what we do and how we solve these problems. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Twitter. We're on all the different social media sites. Get on our website. You can fill out the contact information, and we can stay close and we can stay in contact with each other about your different concerns and issues. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your attention. And we'll see you on the next video when we talk about special policing reforms and changes in that area. Thanks so much. Have a great day.